Hello, everybody. This is Christiana Trayan. I'm so happy to be with you today and host this meeting with Jesse. I hope I'm saying it correctly.
That's right.
Who is beaming in from New Mexico and is going to tell us a few things about his life as a gardener, but also as a pranic nourishment practitioner, because he's been on this journey for more than 4 years now and has had experiences where he has been nourished by light, and he has been practicing vegetarianism, veganism, intermittent fasting. So he's going to share a little bit about all these practices and how this practice has turned into a lifestyle, because really that's what we want to hear about. We want to know and bring to you people that have turned lighter nourishment into a lifestyle and have been able to make it sustainable, have been able to make it a day-to-day routine rather than a thing that's happening every now and then. So Jesse is living in northern New Mexico. He's practicing Taoism and Buddhism, and he has lots of energy practices, and also the fact of being so connected with nature seems to add so much to this lifestyle. He has been doing sun gazing, qigong, fasting, herbalism, and he's working also with the 4 elements of nature. So earth, water, fire, wind, and we hope also ether, which is basically prana, are a part of his daily practice. So Jesse, welcome and thank you for being with us. I look forward to hear more about your lifestyle and whatever you want to present to us today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Christiana. Thank you for having me. I've been following your work for years and seen you with my teacher, Elliot Tom, a number of times, and really appreciate your spirit and your message and what you, the way you promote pranic living in the community.
Thank you.
As Christiana mentioned, I've been, this journey really started for me about 12 years ago when I was already, a permaculturalist, a gardener, a professional gardener, and eating organic and everything, but started to have issues with my physical health. Started to develop allergies to like wheat and dairy, and being a Buddhist, I'd always wanted to try vegetarianism and had given it a couple of, goes, but didn't really stick. But this, illness, urged me on to take it more seriously. And so around that time, a friend had shared with me a book about a Russian family who got into raw food and wildcrafting when they had all manner of diseases themselves, obese and diabetic, and a whole host of things. And that whole connection with a naturalistic way of living and raw food really appealed to me. I started to work with biophotonic rich, enzyme, nutrient rich raw foods, and had this amazing healing. And at about the same time, I started practicing sun gazing and meditation again, because as a Buddhist, I had already been practicing it, but it had slipped through the cracks being a young father and trying to make my profession and my living. And it just ended up being this wonderful, just super connective experience. And I started to explore through some of the various teachers. There was David Wolf was an early inspiration for me, and people like Dan McDonald, and they were talking, Dan McDonald particularly was talking about, he was very much into the Essene gospel of peace, where Jesus explains to his, people that you can heal with the 4 angels of earth, wind, fire, and water. So earth being like grounding barefoot, getting, clay and mud on your skin, eating good food of the earth, and the water, getting good waters to consume, to bathe in the water, getting in the sunlight, the fire, and sun gazing and these things, and breath, breath work, meditation. So that all just really hooked in for me. I started doing barefoot hikes and working in my gardens that I tend barefoot, and all of it just was, I had young sons. It was like some of the just juiciest time of my life. It was just having so much fun playing in nature and learning through nature. And it just started to do, I had heard about breatharianism mostly through the sun gazing teacher, HRM, to begin with. And then I saw that movie Eat the Sun, and heard about Ray Mayor, and really connected with his spirit. I just felt like he was such a sweet brother, in heart. And so it started to appeal to me more and more. I started to work with fasting slowly to begin with, and also with the raw foods and the biophotonic rich foods. And sun gazing and everything. The breakfast just fell away. I wasn't hungry for breakfast anymore, and that persisted until I really got really interested. I wanted to go to one of Ray's retreats, and he was very sweet. He offered that I could come for free and work it out later, but it wasn't syncing up with my lifestyle as, being a gardener, having many kids, or 3 children, and not really being able to get away for a couple weeks for an initiation. And I'm actually grateful it happened that way, because I came across Elliot Tom, and Elliot Tom was talking about there used to have this show, I think it's still up on YouTube, called Supreme Masters TV, and he was talking about breatharianism for the common man, and Ray was talking about as well how to integrate this lifestyle more beyond retreats, because I know a lot of people will go for a pranic retreat, and then it's, as soon as you get back to the stresses of your own life, it's very easy to like backslide into that, your old habits and what have you. So I just started working slowly at first with dry fasting about 5 years ago. Started doing, first I did like a 1-day dry fast, and then I did like a 36-hour dry fast a little later, and then I did a 48-hour dry fast, and just extended that until I got to like 4.5 days. And after that 4.5 days, I took Ray's instruction of, after you sort of prime the pranic engine, to then make a commitment to do 30 days of liquidarianism. And, they say that you can build a habit. If you can practice something for 30 to 90 days, it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's actually how it happened for me in my early years of it. It was like I went into a dark room for 10 days, in Thailand, and I didn't eat those 10 days and didn't have light. So the pineal was secreting a lot of melatonin. And then when I came back home, not even wanting to prolong that state, I didn't think of becoming a breatharian. I just wanted the experience. My body instantly entered that state for more than 30 days. And there were days where I could only consume a small amount of juice, and other days where only breath work would be enough, and meditation. I couldn't imagine swallowing juice or water or anything else. It was naturally going into dry or pranic state. I call it pranic state because I never aimed for dry fasting. I actually not recommending for people that have kidney issues or other type of issues in the body. So if the body goes naturally into it, in my case, that's how it happens, then I prolong it for as long as the body needs, but without pushing it. So that state just settles in when you're ready.
I totally agree with that. That's been my whole path of like really learning, you know, that was starting with raw foods, learning to listen to my body and what my body was wanting, you know, versus what I was craving, you know, and going gently into it. You know, it's taken me now something like 12 years to get where I'm at now, where I never wanted to rush it. I never even considered that. I was interested in breatharianism, but I didn't think it was actually going to happen for me, you know, but it just kind of unfolded. And I don't like the term dry fasting either, because when you're in that pranic state, it's such a juicy, wonderful, clear, lucid experience, and you feel sustained. Whereas dry fasting has this hard connotation of like no water, you know.
Struggling for something, excluding something, which in both situations, I don't like that vibration, you know. Struggling is no longer, you know, something that is in the flow or something that is connected with spirit, and excluding something is again the state of disconnection instead of being in connection.
I love the way you put that. That's absolutely the way I feel about it. You know, that I'm moving towards this because I want to have a more rich, you know, experience, not because I'm trying to push myself, you know, into something, you know. So yeah, but at that time I moved to liquids and it was very helpful to me to continue with that in the context of a family situation, you know. And then so I maintained that, and then eventually I connected with Elliot Tom, and he came out and gave instruction here at our place, our farm, where we offer classes and stuff. We did a pranic retreat, and you know, he gave me so much wise advice during that time. We walked around the desert together for I think about 2 weeks. And, you know, he just filled me with all kinds of wonderful wisdom about this lifestyle. And it was such a pleasurable experience. And that was one thing he actually instructed me to do. He said, eat with your family once a week to stay connected to them, you know, and because, you know, that time is going to come and go, and you may have regrets if you don't, you know, keep that sense of connectivity. So even though I'd already moved into liquidarianism, I started eating with my family once a week for about 2 months. But it also you know, propelled me forward, because on the one hand I had that sense of connection, but on the other hand, after, you know, and I'd enjoy the food, but afterwards I didn't feel very good, because my body was already moving more to prana. And so all those things were like reinforcing to keep going, you know. So that was very helpful, actually, even though it seems antithetical to trying to, you know, moving towards prana, you know. But he would remind me, and that was my whole experience, because being a gardener, being an herbalist and a forager, a big part of my coming into prana was this connection with plants and with creating delicious raw meals, and sort of the joy of all that, joy being an energy that feeds you once you move more to this state. I think it's actually the primary health path and the primary driver, you know, of our lives, you know, joy and love. So it was really interesting the way it all just kind of unfolded naturally, without a lot of contrivance, and with a lot of things that didn't seem very intuitive, that just showed up. a lot of things that were very intuitive as well, so so yeah, for the last 4.5+ years I've been liquiditarian, and I've been doing intermittent pranic feasting with juicing. And at first I was doing 16 to 20 hours a day pranic feasting, and then 6 to 8 hours a day allowing myself to have whatever juices, teas, broths, and things that I wanted. But then just it's now day 37, a month or so ago, I started to really feel like it was too much juice, and so I started to narrow my window down. I got inspired because I had listened to Hilton Hotima's Man's Higher Consciousness. Have you ever read that book?
No, but I do have a question
Yeah.
about the quantity of juice that you were saying was too much. So for how long have you been on liquids now until you started to decrease your juice quantity?
Like I said, it was about 4.5 years, and it was more like I would just let myself have whatever juices I'd want all day. It's something here in the desert. I'm a gardener by trade. I'm out there, digging holes and planting trees and in the sun and sweating, and so I did feel like it was very supportive as I was,
an awesome
active in it.
activity. You get to be pretty much like a plant that's getting all the juiciness of all the prana that is there out in nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be, barefoot and, with the sun on me and in the open air, and I could feel, even after my first, 4.5 day dry fast, when I go outside, I could feel more nourished, by the air and the light and the earth.
Exactly. And I know our audience is curious about those things, so that's why I'm asking, what type of juices were you drinking, and in which amount or quantity per day? This is what people are usually asking. So yeah.
Well, it's just kind of hard to answer because I wouldn't really track it.
Approximately 1
yeah,
liter.
I would say maybe.
Think about the blender and how much would fit in it, and then you can just approximate.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't doing like smoothies. I was doing more like like actual juices,
Extracts.
fresh juices, and I kombucha and tea. Like I would bring a big 32-ounce thing of chai tea to work with. Maybe I've been working with a superfood company for the last 2.5 or 3 years. So that was one thing I was doing a lot of, was these superfood juices that I could just mix up with some water. And then also, then I'd come home and then maybe press a juice, like a quart of juice, and maybe have some more tea through the evening. So I'd say on the order of between, I know you're in Europe, so I would say between 4 and 8 liters a day, of liquids, just depending on the
4
day.
and 8. Yeah, that's a lot. Yes.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot.
And I still do, I'm doing about 3 liters a day right now.
Of tea plus juice, you say?
Yeah, like I'll make I like to work, my whole path has been with herbs and everything. So I like to make and tonic Taoist herbs were a big part of my moving toward prana more. So I would, like right now I'll make a goji berry tulsi tea in the morning that I let steep, and then, I'll have about a quart of that, a quart of like melon juice, and maybe one of my superfood drinks and a kombucha. That's pretty much I try to mix it up a little bit for variety, because that keeps things interesting, but that's about where I'm at now.
I resonate with that menu. That's about my menu. Well, minus 2 liters, if you will. But it's about what I'm drinking per day. I like watermelon juice most of the time, and then some kombucha and some tea and a lot of water, especially in the summer.
Yeah. So it feels, like a really good, it's still, I still have my youngest son at home, and to be able, after working all day in the garden, to come home in the evening and just sit and enjoy some drinks with them while they're having their meal, it is still this thing of connection.
Sure.
All of this, I've just, like I said before, just like followed my body and what it is telling me, and I feel like I am going to be moving to full pranic, but when the time comes, I'm not putting a time limit on it, but I
Yeah,
just,
no, and really, there's no, I mean, I feel some people put some pressure on themselves with the idea that I'm not there yet.
yeah,
That concept that pranic means not drinking, not eating. But if you think really of the amount of calories that you're having daily, and that's exactly why I was asking about the quantity, because if you drink 3 or 4 liters of liquids per day, out of which 1 liter is juice and the rest is tea and water or kombucha, you wouldn't even equal, the near the equivalent of the amount of calories that an adult person doing physical activity in the sun every day would have as a necessary. So you're way below that, and you're a strong, fit man, and you're doing a lot of physical effort. So in the sun, in the heat, in a job that's requiring a lot of activity. So that's specifically why I was asking about your rhythm now, because I know some people would try to calculate and they say, oh well, it's still a lot of nourishment. No, it isn't. It's under 1,000 calories, I believe. And for an adult male, if you look at any nutritionist rules, that's very, very little. So you are on a pranic path, because the rest of the energy that you're putting in is not coming from the food. And definitely it's coming from that unidentified source that NASA described, when they had a study, and they were measuring some stuff with some calorimetric suits, and they were wanting to test these suits or do something like that. And at some point they discovered that they were measuring the calories that people would put in and the calories that they would consume with physical activities like sports and stuff. And they discovered that with normal people not doing any type of energy work like qigong or yoga or anything, 8 to 25% of the amount of calories that they would consume during the day with their physical activities would come from an unidentified source. They wasn't coming from food, they wasn't coming from the things that they would ingest. It was just coming from thin air, if you wish, and they couldn't identify that energy. Where does it come from? What's with that extra energy that people were consuming that they weren't ingesting? So they called it QRX, or unidentified energy source. That unidentified energy source is nourishing you for sure if you're doing all this work every day in the sun and you're only drinking 1 liter of juice and tea and water. It's not, it's obvious, and that is being fully pranic, because
yeah,
I know people that would sit on a couch all day and would feel hungry with double that amount
right,
or triple that amount of nourishment. So when we're not having that state of hunger and functioning full on and having all that energy to do physical work, it means we are accessing a different source of nourishment, for sure. It doesn't matter if we're still drinking juice, it doesn't matter if we're having tea. There's very few people in the world who right now who can even encompass that possibility that a person wouldn't have solid food for 4 years and be able to work outside in that way. So
yeah.
yeah, I would say that
Take,
we're already there, and the rest is just fine-tunement according to maybe the people we have to connect with. So for example, yesterday I had a dinner with friends. I wouldn't specifically eat with them because I didn't need at that moment to have physical food. So they would have salad and whatnot, and I would just sit with some lemonade. But before the dinner, some hours before, I did have to take a few bites of, I don't remember what it was. I think it was some cabbage with something, very light vegan food, 2 or 3 bites to synchronize in order to get there in that group that would have a normal non-vegan dinner with me. So sometimes it's just connecting with people, not from a state of hunger, not from a state of needing, not even from a state of craving, but specific frequency match that we have to still hold in order to either be in a family or in a specific group or whatever is requested of us to do.
Thank you for saying that, and acknowledging and putting it that way. It's definitely the case, the way I feel. It is. It's I enjoy it as a bit of a pat on the back for a whole day worth of it, and also just to be in connection, like I said before, with my family, just to sit with them. And I've actually been working and talking with this researcher clinician who's been doing a lot of, she heard about breatharianism and she started to study very deeply the science of it. And she was identified that her and other scientists have studied this more deeply now, that all, everyone's a breatharian, and that you get, basically 30 to 60% of your energy from ATP from food you eat, that most of it comes from, there's this water in the body, a fourth phase of water called exclusion zone water, and it goes
easy
around
water,
and there's a positive charge and a negative charge on either side of this EZ water, and that creates a battery, and this thing of moving to vegan, raw, alkaline foods to alkalize the body so that you become more like a battery, and biophotonic rich food, and then these practices like grounding where you're gathering energy ions from the earth, being in the sun and sun gazing, where the infrared is showering you with, and even without being in the sun at night indoors, you're still being hit with scalar waves of cosmic energy. And that, energy is what runs our bodies. We are energy. And so I think this is, as Elliot Tom put it, and many others, I think this is the dawning of a new age, and this is going to become the new science and medicalism, is the understanding of us as energy beings and us moving collectively more to prana,
Yes, definitely. And we do have a team of researchers and scientists who are very interested in this, and we're constantly exchanging information and research and whatever is new on this topic. And they are actually studying the body in terms of brain waves and genes, and the production of ATP and what the mitochondria does and the role of water and all that stuff, to see how actually this is happening in the body and what are the side effects, the positive side effects of it. For example, one of our colleagues, Nasim Harmin, was posting yesterday on this group about the fact that actually intermittent fasting or dry fasting can help regenerate nerves or repair the nerves. So that's very important for healing, for health. It's not just a spiritual thing. It's a totally health benefit thing that we should take into consideration. So I would very much love to connect with your friend who's researching, or your team of friends who are researching this, because we want to add to this group and add to the research that we're already having. And I did an interview for the summit, a live talk with Gerald Pollack on the EZ, the fourth phase of water, because he's the one who discovered it. And we did talk of it from the perspective of pranic nourishment, because it seems that it's very much so, very much possible that we owe it to the water in the body and this fourth phase of water or plasma water that we're having,
Right.
that is getting charged with energy every day.
And that's, to me, with this whole path of plants too, it's like the plants have the H3O2, that the hydrogen water that I think is helpful for building this easy water. A lot of people's waters are made out of, on the subject of working with the four elements, a lot of people's waters are made out of fluoridated, chlorinated, recycled water that has, trace pharmaceuticals and things in that. Whereas when you get fruits, natural fruits, and particularly fresh ones, and you juice them, it's a whole different level of, living, structured hydrogen water that really makes our easy water more productive, and helpful in this way. Living.
Yes, and to add to the importance of water and how we can actually shift it, I felt called to bring this stuff that I'm using for the water that I'm drinking, because most of the day I have water as my primary thing that I ingest, right? So I noticed over the years when I was drinking more water rather than consuming food, I noticed that my body would reject certain types of water. So there were types of water that I could drink towards the day, and I could drink up to 5 liters if I was having healing sessions and using a lot of energy or circulating a lot of energy. I would drink a lot of water. And there are other types of water that I couldn't consume. So I would bring 5 liters at home and only have 1 liter max, which was too little for my body at that time. And my question to myself was, why would I drink that type of water, and that type of water would not match me at all? And over time, I noticed it's about the frequency of the water and the degree of alkalinity that it would have. And of course, other substances or minerals it would have in it. I never drink tap water, ever. Like, I want to stress on that, ever.
Yeah.
Regardless of the filters or whatever they have, I don't drink. It's different here in our country because the plumbing system is very old, and it has a lot of rust and a lot of stuff that you don't want to put in your body. So we don't drink that. I don't drink it. And it was Galina, a breatharian or pranic woman from Russia that you probably know, that gifted me this type of pranic drops, we call them, that you add in the water. I add about half of this pipe. I add about this amount in 5 liters of water, and it changes the molecular structure of the water. It makes it, it ionizes it. It makes it much more drinkable. It has a different structure even on your tongue. And it makes it very, very good for detox and for, removing residues out of your cells. So it becomes even more so a healing agent, because the water is already a healing agent and a detox agent, but even more so with this substance that we call the pranic water, or they call the plasma water. I've never had anything similar before, even though I tested many ways of restructuring water over the years, and many things have been brought to me to test. So this is something that I highly recommend on a pranic path, on a healing path, or if you just want to, upgrade your energy, because it really makes a difference. And whomever is watching, you can then text me and I can offer you a link or some website where you can have it if you want.
That's awesome. I too, my son, Jeremy, has a neurological disease. He was born with, but we always thought our water here was good because we have a well and we ran it through a Berkey filter, and he ended up getting uranium toxicity because of natural uranium in the water, that really exacerbated his health issue. And so we started working with a company that sells hydrogen water. That's just distilled water with hydrogen infused in it. And that was one of the things that helped him more than anything we've worked with, at the time. And he's doing much better now, but it was a whole process, and water was a key issue. So I love that you shared that. I'd be interested in definitely trying your pranic drops there, with my distilled water, because I'm using distilled water. And that's part of what I've come to understand about all this is that we're all breatharians, and the body has this vital adjustment that we can even adjust our bodies to poisons. And people who are addicted to things like opiates, pharmaceutically or otherwise, if you take them off of it cold turkey, they can die. It's the same thing with foods, that the foods all have toxicity to them. And like you were mentioning, like over mineralization of the body, this mineralizes the kidneys and mineralizes like the fascia, and creates bone spurs and all this stuff. And even if it's just coming through water that is hard water, or something like that, this accumulation happens. So working with water is one of the primary ways to, cleanse the kidneys, flush excessive minerals, out of the body, and make it engine that can grab prana more freely, it would seem. So, it's a fascinating subject, but that's part of what Hilton Hotima goes into, is the whole kind of hierarchy of how we're all breatharians, and we move, the sort of the biblical story of Adam and Eve ate the fruit, and that's when they got, kicked out of the garden, so to speak. That we moved from being pranic at some point. I think, we were probably the pyramid builders, and that we're all being.
I was for sure.
Yeah, that we
I
were.
have no doubt on this.
In the past, we were beings of higher consciousness, all pranic, psychic, able to do things that we haven't been able to reproduce in our modern technological era. And that's because we're looking at the wrong technology. Our body is the highest technology that there is, and so moving from like the very rajasic foods of like, fast food and chemical agriculture and all of that, and then up, to like meat and those things, even if it's consciously raised, but then beyond there, you move into, vegetarianism and veganism, and then fruitarianism, and then liquidarianism, and then full breatharian. So it's something that is just, I think, part of our natural evolution that's coming back, as I understand it. The Kali Yuga was us going away from the galactic center, and 2012 was our point of returning back towards the galactic center, and we're being washed with these waves of light that are waking up our pineal glands and our DNA. And so this is going to become more and more the path of healing, as we remember ourselves going back to, non-violent pranic people in total connection with one another and the earth, and doing this healing that all has to do with electromagnetism and energy. So it's fun, fascinating stuff. I love it. It's such a juicy path.
Tell us a little bit, something that I was very, very interested in, because as I was in Tao Garden, Mantak Chia's healing center, over the years, and I had conferences there on pranic nourishment, and I went into dark rooms there and so on. I worked with a herbalist who was using herbal medicine in the Chinese tradition. And it was amazing for me to have that during the dark room, and I was having no food and just dark and totally able to notice any subtle change in my body because my whole attention was on myself, on within, and it was amazing for cleansing my blood and the internal organs and so on. I have no idea what plants he used though. So he would make a combination just looking at my tongue and pulse and uh, asking a few questions about my health history. I would love to know what you have used and what results you have noticed and how they helped you on your pranic path. Because I'm a big fan of detox. I'm a big fan of plant teas, herbal teas. I don't do plant medicine, smoke or drank whatever it is, but that type of Chinese medicine I always enjoy and would love to know more of.
Yeah, well, I studied some Ayurveda and some Chinese medicine, and it is very much a thing where we all have a very unique constitution made of the amalgamation of earth, wind, fire, and water in different proportions, and this connects in also with our healing needs and our psychology, and so really it's best when it's made very specific to individuals. But there's a class of herbs in Chinese medicine known as tonic herbs that don't have
Yes.
indication, that are very beneficial across the board. And I've worked with a lot of these personally in my path. A lot of them are like things like medicinal mushrooms that you can brew into teas. Um, uh, One thing I've been working with a lot and that I grow a lot of here at my farm is goji berry.
Yeah.
Because goji berry is in this class of tonic herbs, and in the entire Chinese pharmacopoeia of over 10,000 plants, goji berry is number one. And there's a person I came across who I was very interested in. He was a Taoist master who lived to be 260 years old, around that age, and he ate vegan, raw, and he ate during set times and cycles, and goji berry tea was something he did every single day.
I would
And
love to emphasize on that because that's very important. Did you meet him in person, you said?
no, I didn't meet him in person. I just came across him. He was in Time magazine. I think he did pass like maybe in like the 20s or the 40s. I'm not sure exactly
Okay.
the
Can you tell us
timeline.
his name?
Oh gosh, what was
Or
his name?
write it to me later. I'm
Okay,
very
yeah.
interested in this because I always say to people that we are immortal, that we can prolong our lifespan way beyond 90 or 100 years. My whole lineage of family, women in the family were over 90 or 95, all of them, but that's like babies age for an advanced civilization. So I'm sure
Yeah.
that, and I know that there are people in the world and even contemporary people that are way beyond 100 to 100 years of age. I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, I'm shooting for 3,000. They say if you want to hit the moon, you should aim for the stars. That's pretty ambitious,
Well, I will be here until I'm bored. I don't have a lifespan yet of where I'm gonna stop. I did have some exit dates that I ditched already, though. So
Yeah, it's
maybe
a,
we'll meet again in 3,000 years. Maybe, in
yeah,
another form.
yeah. That's something that's a big part of this path for me. Is something that Elliot Tom said that I just rang true for me, as someone who is interested in longevity, breatharianism, etc. Like, you just really love life, and when you feel good, you love it even more, and so you want to get the most out of it. And I think of us as we're infinite beings already with infinite karma, and infinite things to learn about our, the most profound mystery, which is our own selves, and so I want plenty of time to try to unravel that, try to get into past life memory recall and things, so that I could do as much as possible to advance my soul's evolution, and hopefully to help others advance their soul's evolution. And I just feel like we're all one here, and the more we can lift each other up and be in support and grow, mostly do that through growing through our own selves, the sky's the limit. We have infinite potential, infinite resource. And I really love Nassim Haramein's work, and that whole thing of, we're infinite beings because we're infinitely divisible, and our heart is this singularity point, and that is, I think of it as a 0-point energy device. And
Definitely.
and that it never, you
Portal.
still have the cells in your heart that you had when you were a baby, because they have this extraordinary quality, of longevity. And so it's very interesting subject, and I think herbalism is a great part of the path towards it. There's lots of I've worked with hundreds of herbs over the years, ones that are native to New Mexico, like osha, that's a great ones that are Chinese herbs that I grow here, like hoshu wu, which is very high in resveratrol, which is a major antioxidant. And there's a story about the man who found it, having lived a full life to like 80 years, grew sick, found hoshu wu, started using it, grew his hair back black, sired more children, and did it again a couple of times. There's also an Indian Ayurvedic treatment called Kaya Kalpa, where where using herbs infused in oil, and sleep and meditation, and I think dark room also. People have been able to extend their lives to very advanced, ages, hundreds of years old, so it's, an amazing thing, when you try to combine all of these modalities. And with the superfood company, that's why I work with this superfood company, because I can help my community. A lot of people will come to me, for herbs, my herbal tinctures, or some kind of advice on herbs to take, and I ask them about their nutrition. And they're like, hey, wait, I wanted to know about the herbs. And it's like, well, your nutrition first, and how's your water, and how's your sleep, and what's your stress load like, and what do you abuse, so the superfoods that I work with have a lot of these tonic herbs in them.
What's the name of the company?
It's called Purium. We do serve Europe too. In Europe, it's called Platinum Europe. But they have superfood juices that are, full of like spirulina and alfalfa and all kinds of wonderful things. There are other ones that have medicinal mushrooms like cordyceps and chaga and agaricus. And
I want the link of that.
I'd be very happy to share that with you. Those have been helpful for me with my lifestyle, being, busy fathering, gardening, etc. Not always able to press juice. I can mix up or take these kind of things into work, and then I can offer them also to my community to help them. That's why I got into it. Is the founder, Dave Sandoval, he actually worked with Ann Wigmore. Do you know about Ann Wigmore?
I heard of her, but now I don't make a connection between the name and I don't remember.
She was one of the first raw foodists, sort of in recent pop history, like in the 50s. She was helping people heal from things that you were not supposed to be able to cure, like cancer and diabetes and all kinds of stuff. And she was the person that brought wheatgrass juicing.
Okay, that's where I heard of it.
Yeah.
The wheatgrass juice. Yeah.
So a lot of her he worked with her in developing all of these juices and for her healing centers, and he was one of the first hardcore hippies in Northern California who got the organic standards started for the world.
Mm.
And he was working with intermittent fasting, juicing, probiotics, aminos, and anti-parasitic herbs. And so that's the main thing I sell as a cleanse, is basically a pranic,
Concoction.
a pranic starter. It's 30 days of, doing superfood juices and, probiotics and herbs and stuff. And so it's combined with intermittent fasting, and you can do that with raw foods, or some people choose paleo. I like to meet people where they're at, depending.
Yes. I'm very much interested in that. I do work with some companies as well that I tested myself and enjoyed. However, for parasite cleanse and tonic effects, I'm still looking for the next best thing, except from Prana, that is obvious, I'm still looking for the next best thing, because here in our country, it's not yet stabilized. That industry is, if we can call it that way, is still developing. We do have some good specialists here, and people that have been on this path and have developed some products, but not at the level that you're talking about yet. And we're importing some of the stuff from other countries. So I would love to get to know your brand better, and especially if you've made if you already made like a program or a combination of stuff that can bring both detox and parasite cleanse. That's what I'm interested in, because as you know, I'm since 2013, I've been sharing this pranic process online and live also, where we work with people for 8 days, each day 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and we present various methods and techniques and practices, like daily pranic meditation and some exercises of deprogramming the body and so on, to stabilize more on the pranic nourishment and on a lighter state of consciousness, mainly because I'm not only interested in the diet. Any nutritionist can do that, but we're interested in upgrading the energy level on a stabilized term.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And one of the first things that we're recommending as a beginning steps are detox, parasite cleanse, and rejuvenation of the blood also. And that's made at the beginning with some products. I do recommend also, sauerkraut juice and watermelon juice and aloe vera juice, the simple things that you can find in any market, if you will. But then the next level is to actually use some herbs that are specifically for parasite cleanse, specifically for blood rejuvenation or blood cleanse, or and so on, that are frequently found in the Chinese or Ayurvedic medicine. So I'd love to know more about that.
Oh, I'd be so happy to share. I really feel blessed by this company, because it came in right at the right time for me, where I was moving. I feel like I'm moving away a little bit from I'm gonna always garden, but growing food does not have the interest it used to for me, because I'm moving more to prana, and
yes.
and now what's more interesting to me is to be able to help the human family have a similar experience, and have tools for it. And it everything you spoke of is just what it does. So it was like a really, for me, serendipitous timing for my personal life, as well as like being able to move professionally into different mode a little bit, but that's something that has been, key for me too, that I just, why I'm glad we're having this conversation, is getting people acquainted with the 4 elements through actually the practice of gardening and cultivating life, because it's this thing of, it's like a nurturing vibration. It's a practice, nurturing your own life, nurturing the life of plants, and animals, and as breatharians, and just as human beings connected in an interconnected world, we've and as a human being, we're sort of beings of higher consciousness, and what we've perpetrated on the land is now affecting our bodies, and our consciousness and our experience, and as bioaccumulators at the top of the food chain, we bear the brunt of it more than any other species, and that's why cancer is an incidence of 1 in 2, in this day and age. And so we need to take it upon ourselves to garden the planet back into health, in my view, as a priority, and that our breath is such an important part of this, the air element, and breathing practice. And they're kind of sad experiments, I guess, in the 20s, but they definitely were illustrative of the situation, where they put a hamster in a hamster cage on a hamster wheel that was completely sealed with no air coming in.
We're losing you for a bit. I didn't hear the last part.
Okay.
The hamster, since the hamster, so to speak.
Okay. They put it in a cage where no air was coming in, and the hamster ran on this hamster wheel for a little bit and died very shortly. They put one single aloe vera plant in with the hamster, and the hamster was able to run for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
Still no air, right?
Still no air. The air is just happening, this exchange between the plant and the hamster.
Okay, wow, that's interesting.
And we've been desertifying the earth with our mode of agriculture and production, and that's something else that's key to me about the pranic path, is learning to be moderate. That we have been told, and that we've taken on the role of consumer, but really we're creators, and that we have this ability to nurture and create life. So there's massive projects that have been undertaken in India and China, for instance, where millions of trees are planted. Or in China, there is a place called the Loess Plateau that was completely denuded from livestock overgrazing, to desertified, and they did a permaculture design, and the people of the Loess Plateau got together and installed it. This area is the size of Belgium, and it's now a giant food forest with running rivers and streams. That the people have been lifted out of economic impoverishment, and we forget our abundance is natural abundance. So I think there's a karmic duty, a necessity for our breath and for our food and for our economic abundance, that we take on regenerative agriculture and permaculture and food forest design, and garden the planet back to health. And that through this process, you're out there in the sun, getting the sunlight, you're breathing good oxygen, you're exercising, you're touching the earth. And even when you just touch the planet with your hands or your feet, you're absorbing probiotic into your body, and you're getting negative ions. So it becomes a pranic process just to be in the garden. And this company that I work with too, they're very much about regenerative agriculture. They grow their food 30 plus miles away from anywhere that's spraying. Whereas here in the States, a lot of the organics are just downwind, downstream from places that spray. So sort of taking on that ethos of no, we're really going to take care and do a good job to clean up the place and clean up our health, take care of one another, and take care of the planet itself, the animals and the plants, and nurture it. So that's definitely part of my heart mission. Whatever I do going forward, I just want to nurture people into health and nurture land into health. And it's a lot of fun, really. It's a lot more fun than being inside. You get to be a kid again, barefoot, outside, climbing trees, stuff like that.
Totally. I would love to continue endlessly on this topic, because it's my life path and my topic and my main field of interest. However, we have to complete it at some point. So let me know if there's anything that you feel to leave us with. The important message. I loved your message about, building our planet back into health, because it's not only about what we cultivate, but also the habits we change and the consciousness we get into, and the change in vibration that we each embody, that is then generated on the whole planet and beyond, that is gonna round that planet back into health. And we're all working on that diligently now, all of us that are meeting here at least. But what else would you feel to add as a final message?
Well, I would say, like you just kind of hit it on the head in terms of taking it into our own lives at a personal level, and that this is about the development of our experience. I tell people all the time, I think our higher self is our inner child, that we've come here to have fun and to be connected to each other and be connected with the plants and animals. And we have a rare opportunity now, to do this. And when people start working with plants and herbs and intermittent fasting and connecting with the elements of earth, wind, fire, and water, it's just a natural unfolding. It's just as simple as pie and as easy as can be. And so I just want to encourage you all, to value yourself and love your planet, love your human family, because that emanation, it's going to start first, as I'm sure you're well aware, on that quantum level of our inner world, and when we care about it, then we'll do it. It won't be that hard. So that's what I'd like to share.
A message of love. That's beautiful. And that's really the core of pranic consciousness. Pranic consciousness is equivalent to love consciousness. Basically, if we all knew that, it would be easier for us to basically encompass that state, because it's not really about how much you fast. It's not about how much detox you do, even though that matters. It's not about how many years of spiritual practice you've had, even though that can add to it. It's really about how much can you dwell in a state of love for yourself primarily, and for everything around you that is eventually all you.
Right.
So,
Right.
so therefore, pranic consciousness is a state of love, and your message is the cherry on the cake, if you will, or the cherry on the pranic cake. Even though we do like cake from time to time, why not? So
Joy.
we hope, Jesse, that you can make it to the Pranic Festival in Romania, and everybody out there watching. We have a Pranic Festival here in Romania every year. We did have it every year so far for 7 years now, and it's our big baby now. So this year we meet again August 15 to 19 to 18. We're bringing together the best of the planet in a beautiful mountain area of Romania. We have fabulous speakers. We have fabulous participants. Some of them have been with us for the last 7 years. So it's almost like a family growing together with children and all. Some are here for the first time. Nobody is forced to fast or not eat, but it's an educational and informative event. And we get to party together. We listen to the speakers. I'm one of the speakers too. We listen to the methods and life paths of so many people that have been nourished by prana for many years, some of them for 10 or 30 years or so, or more. But we also practice the practices together with them. And when we don't do that, we have a lot of fun with sound healing, cacao ceremony, dancing, and many other things that are, all about grounding and embodying this frequency of love. So we hope that you can make it here and
Oh, I'd
tell
love
us.
to. I hope I can too. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I hope I can make it. It would be so fun.
And it would be a lot of fun. There's still 1 month to then, so you still have time to figure that out. And for all the ones listening, thank you for being here. If you want to participate to the Prani Festival, of course, you can go to our events page, soulhealingacademy.com/events. We'll also place a link in the comments, and you can get to that page so that you can know all the details, or just DM me or text me or whatever method of communication we can have to convey you more details about this event. And also, if you want to see all of this summit is on since 2017. So we've gathered lots of conferences like this one. Many scientists and holistic practitioners, breatharians from all over the world, but also doctors, geneticists, cardiologists, and scientists like Gerald Pollack, Nassim Harameem, and others have joined us to explain more of the depths and the nitty-gritty of free energy in the human body. So you can access more than 50 conferences, I believe now, in the summit from the comfort of your home for lifetime access by just following the links that we have placed in the comments for you. So, or just write to me and we send you the details. So 2 important events where you can see more of us are the Pranic Festival in Romania, where you can meet us live, and the Pranic Consciousness Summit, where you can see all the work that we've been doing for the past 5 years or so. So that's available to you now. Thank you, Jessie. Lovely to have had this chat with you, and looking forward for further collaboration. Please do remember to send me all the links of the companies you mentioned, and I would be happy to share that with our clients and friends.
Beautiful, Christiana. Such a pleasure to meet you. I really appreciate all the work you've been doing over the years. You're part of the inspiration for me on this path. So just a real pleasure to finally meet you. And look forward. I hope I can make it to Romania. If I can muster the cashola, I'll be there.
Yes, we'll orchestrate that in a way that you can make it happen. And also, Elliot Tom is coming in person, and many of the people you mentioned that have been your inspiration are going to be here or participating online in one way or another.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
Blessings. See you
all
soon,
right.
whenever that is. I'm looking forward for it.
Blessings, Christiana. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.